It's about time that our resources and our laws match up to ensure that consumers are protected. We are doing our best, but seriously, if you're going to wage war in 2019 using the tools of 1975, you'll be handicapped.
So have we failed in protecting the consumer in this regard?
We have not failed. I think the question to ask is that have we invested in the systems to protect consumers? And here I would stretch it again. Our job as standards authority agencies or food and drugs authorities is to ensure that consumers are safe regardless of the product they use. Now, if the investment we are making as a country is woefully inadequate, the results will show.
Well, per the graphic reports today, the GSA is clueless as to how it can approach this problem. How do you respond to that?
Well, I smiled when I read the word clueless. This is what the GSA does. Regardless of whether it is a manual or digital pump, we check with a visual gauge, which is a physical gauge, so that we check that, you're actually dispensing the volume. But we do that only twice a year. In the past, in between that, we use a seal to lock the gauge. And when the seal is not tampered with, you are sure. But yes, in the digital age, the seal is more or less redundant, because you can tamper with the instrument without touching the seal. And that is what is happening. Now the question is that, do we need to do that 24/7? The answer is no. In all countries, regardless of the technology you have, they check the physical volumes, but they go regularly to do market surveillance. They don't do it once, twice a year. Maybe 4 times a year, maybe 6 times a year. Indeed, in some countries now, and you could mention India and others, what the state says is that the state reserves the right to verify pumps 12 times a year, and they charge for it up front. But whether they come 12 times in January or across board is the prerogative of the state. And what is rather done is that enforcement is so severe that the onus rests on you, the seller, to ensure that consumers are not cheated. And that is a similar thing we have been advocating for.
Prof made mention of the fact that earlier this morning they were being bashed across a lot of platforms when this story broke out. And many were raising the concern that we do not have standards in the country. If we have the laws and they are not being implemented and the consumer is being cheated, are we right to say we don't have standards in the country?
Well, why we don't have standards is the duty of the country, for that matter, GSA, to also to ensure that the standards are available. So to say, to follow development. This is usually not even done by the OMCs themselves. Talking about the management of them. But then individuals, one, who may be actually just be involved in that one. Because a typical example is like when the recent closure, when we came in as COPEC, advising them to compensate the consumers, I don't know whether you heard it, well, move fast. They really made some, did some compensation package for them, showing that the company is a OMC, GOIL is not in favor of that. So just some individuals. So here, I just also want to advise the individuals that they should also be very careful. That once we are also all supposed to go by the law, they also have to obey. If they don't, and for example, COPEC comes in, you also get GSA involved, and then they will equally be prosecuted.
Well, some of the OMCs that refuse to compensate the consumers, what sort of actions do you plan to take?
Well, we followed up, and then they gave it assurance that they will do it, but they have not done it. Sure, some of them they have not done it, but at least, like I'm saying, one of them at least has shown the goodwill.
1 out of 10.
Oh, were they 10?
Yeah, there were 10.
You see, let me also advise my consumers. It looks like the consumer doesn't know that he has the powerful tool in his hands, which is your money. Okay, in other jurisdictions, consumers should protect your would reject your product.
Yeah.
Consumers will not come to your filling station. Consumers will not do business with you. Okay.
That is if they are aware.
No, I'm just saying, let's assume that the other 9 that you are talking about, if you're a consumer, that you buy petrol from there, and it has come to light that the guy took advantage of you, why would you want to go there the second time for him to take advantage of you again? You need to complain. In consumerism, the best thing is avenue to complain. So me, I'm just saying that we the Ghanaians, we should stop being Enyeshi Ghana dear Famenyame. I mean, for crying out loud. I mean, for crying out loud. I am religious, but not that religious that when somebody is stealing my money, I will give it to God.
Interesting there.
Abdul, I mean, look, once again, I will come back to us as Ghanaians. For us as a state agency, we are very much aware of the need to move Ghana forward quickly. Now, to do that, everything Kofi has said comes into play. Even if you are going to take it from the Bible says the Lord hates a faulty measure. Yeah, in the Bible, somewhere in the Old Testament, the good Lord basically is saying that using a faulty measure is a sin. Now, we are a very religious country, but when it comes to doing bad, it's unbelievable. And what I take as standards authority is this: we would have to enforce and enforce and enforce till we move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, Prof, finally, I want to know what exactly. I don't expect to be hearing a lot of the complaints and challenges of the industry from the Ghana Standards Authority. I want to hear what the authority is doing in the immediate...
I will tell you the good news. You said 30%. Kofi, surely it could be more.
Okay.
It could be less, but then the reality of the situation is that even if it's 3 out of 7, it's a lot of numbers. So what are we trying to do? One, and it's a notice to Ghanaians. We know very well that there are times when the likelihood of manipulation will be highest. Weekends, holidays, the times that government workers don't work. So we are concentrating our activities on those ones. And we'll publish the data. That is number one. Number two, we have started engaging some of the key players. Because we were lucky, following the visit by His Excellency to Morocco, we got an invite from the King of Morocco.
Prof, you have 60 seconds.
60 seconds. What we are trying to institute is what we call a trusted trader scheme. We want those guys who want to swear that they do good to come to us, and we'll endorse them publicly on their stations. So if there's a problem there, you can hold GSA responsible. It happens in most countries. When you publicly endorse an organization, it's a voluntary scheme, but it's a scheme where the one is willing to be checked 24/7. And it's like dole, it should work.
Thank you.
Because these are some of the initiatives you can do whilst you wait for the laws to be tightened.
Thank you so much for your time and patience, especially to Kofi Kapito. Tonight on the show, we've been discussing how the consumer can be protected. Earlier today, there was a report that over 30% of players in the oil retail business are under 7. So we had the Consumer Protection Agency, we had the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers and the Ghana Standards Authority to have a discussion, and you heard what they said, some education to consumers out there and some sort of caution to perpetrators of these acts. My name is Sani Abdul-rahman. I've been sitting in for your usual host, Moomen. You need to stay right there. Our news at 10 is underway.